moisture in that?
I just dug this up and broke out that big chunk of worm cast.
How can you tell it's worm?
It's a cylinder-shaped pore that's backfilled with the castings from that's probably a night crawler, big as that dude
Yeah?
is.
Huh.
Can you squish it and then is it hollow in the middle?
Yeah, see, there's the pore.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
Oh.
Whoops.
Oh, excuse me.
No, right there.
Thanks.
So, we talked a little bit last night, and if you can stand to hear it again, Julie asked me to just mention our ideas. I'm wearing a shirt today from an organization in Kansas that I'm on the board for called No Till on the Plains. It started out with farmers who were trying to educate about no-till, but now it's evolved where we educate about soil health in all the kinds of different ways. And the idea of soil health comes down to an understanding that this is an ecosystem, and the discoveries were really rediscoveries. None of these ideas are new, but they weren't known in the whole ag community. And a lot of the old ranchers and native grass users knew these ideas and published them and wrote them. But a lot of farmers didn't find them again until they got broke and they started taking some chances and being successful in discovering what the deal was. So those 5 principles that we talk about start with a stable soil where we control the disturbance. And by controlling the disturbance, it gives that soil a chance to be stable and for all the underground life to grow and occupy that soil that we've discovered that we rely on to feed us. The underground funguses that grow in a stable soil are there ready to colonize any root when it germinates or when a potato plant goes to rooting. The fungus, for lack of a better word, infects the plant, but they have a mutual relationship where the fungus gets a little sugar, and in return the fungus brings back nitrogen, phosphorus, zinc, water that the plants can't get on their own. They actually rely on that fungus to bring food back. The other idea is to use diversity. The native plant community here would be hundreds of native plants just in a small area. And when we have adapted to a very simple pattern of farming, like corn and beans or wheat and fallow, then we've reduced the diversity down and we've lost all the services that plants give us, because all of these plants are pumping all kinds of chemicals in the soil, and most of those chemicals the plant does on purpose to draw beneficial plants or beneficial microbes to it. And like legumes feed the rest of the neighborhood nitrogen. God's main plan for getting nitrogen in the environment is a legume. It wasn't a factory, it was the legume. And our grandparents knew that and understood that. So plant diversity is important, and anything I can do to build diversity and functional groups in my ecosystem will build that diversity, and the underground ecosystem respond. We like to keep the ground covered because evaporation is always stealing, is a robber that's hidden and is always stealing from us.
He just planted ryegrass over the top of this. So.
Cool. You know, having cover reduces evaporation. It provides insulation. I assume that everybody lives in some sort of house that has a little insulation, because we don't like temperature changes that vary dramatically. And even a site like this in the summer where this is bare now, it'll have a wide temperature range between morning and evening, and the microorganism community will suffer because of those temperature changes. They're just like the microorganisms in me. These guys don't like changes in temperature. They like 98.6. So, controlling your disturbance, using diversity, keeping the ground covered, and the microorganisms that we rely on are not good at being starved. So anytime we don't have a living plant here, the underground community's starving.
How long can they go without cover?
They
Some kind?
within a few days the population will start to fall. Now around the world there's certain climates like the Mediterranean climates that naturally get dry. Those communities are more adapted to that dry period than the microorganism community would be here, where you tend to have green all year round and don't tend to have that Mediterranean drought climate. But there's significant losses just in a few days. And as your rye comes up, you know, the organisms will begin to get carbon from the rye and begin to thrive again. But some of the good research has showed that out there where they farm cotton, if I've got a wheat crop and I kill it and plant my cotton, within a few days that fungus has transferred its colonization to the cotton away from the wheat. So, but typically what we have is 3 to 6 or 8 months of bare soil with no fresh carbon and no living roots. Finally, the idea that even in eastern Oklahoma where we don't think about it, these soils and plant communities have to have grazing animals in some way to be healthy. All of this land was made to be grazed with grazing animals. This part of the country, as wooded as it is today, would have originally been more savanna. They would have had more widely spaced trees with a lot of grass in between. Fires would have come through here on a regular basis and kill the little trees. The big oaks, they just wave at the fire and it goes on by. So there's 5 ideas about soil health that if I can figure out a way to implement those on my place, I'll get the benefit. The principles work everywhere, but figuring out how to make them work at my house is the challenge.